I want to bring in ZU Tiles creator, Josh. So give me 1 second to bring in ZU Tiles. Josh is absolutely amazing, and you guys are going to love him. Let's talk about some ZU Tiles. There he is.
Hey.
Josh, welcome. Thank you so much for joining this event, for wanting to be here for the community, and for sending in so much ZU Tiles product so that I distributed it to almost every giveaway that I
That's
have.
great. That's great. Yeah.
So we're gonna get it into a lot of hands. This one is mine, and we're gonna have some fun with it. So, welcome. I want to start talking about ZU Tiles. I did introduce it as a non-traditional take on a TCG because that's how you introduced it to me.
Absolutely.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about why it's non-traditional?
Yeah, sure. I mean, gosh, I could spend a long time on this, but I know we're kind of, trying to get a lot of people in here. But basically, as you can tell from the little bit of gray TCG player from way back in the day, early Magic, 93, 94 stuff. And I just thought, and I loved it to death, loved the community. And that's one thing I want to make sure I shout out right now. At the beginning, when Magic first started, bubbling up, a community formed, and you would go to these like little events that were kind of homemade events, and just lots of really good energy, lots of just love, and you would see people, and you'd all have this common interest. And I'm feeling so much of that, like, reemerge with this, especially with this, just in the chat, everybody just like lots of love. So it's really cool because that's kind of one of the things I wanted to do with ZU Tiles, was kind of bring back some of that 93, 94 kind of just like love of the game play kind of thing. And so it's really cool to be a part of this and to see everybody so hyped up for just the community. It's really great. So kudos to you and pulling this all together for sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I have the same feeling that you do about the community back in the day. Mine was Pokemon, and I remember going to like Books A Million and just laying on the floor with my binder, trading with other people and playing. And that's really what I wanted this event to be about. But
to answer your question, I didn't answer your question, why ZU is different. Well, because, I saw a bunch of, back in the day, a lot of people were making card games, and that was great and all that. But to me, I felt like, if I was to do a game someday, I wanted to try and do something a little bit different. That's just me being like me, just being like, okay, all these guys can do the card games, but let me see if I can do something and tweak a little something else. And so, there's kind of a long story into how I came up with ZU and how I started to work on the Chinese Zodiac. But basically what it came down to was I was making sure in my mind, I didn't want to do that. So I was messing around with stuff, and I came across the idea of using square cards instead of cards that you would hold in your hand. And then just when I started to work in the Chinese Zodiac, it was really cool because what happened was I was looking at a thing, and I was like, okay, what if I put a square here of like a snake and of a rabbit next to it, and then if the snake tried to do something to the rabbit could physically like hop away from it, physically on the game area. Yeah, so it turned out that the tiles were just really worked for the type of gameplay that I was trying to, work with. And so it was just like an epiphany. It was like, wow, this is a really cool thing. No one else is doing it, so that was really cool. And so that's kind of what really cool. That's kind of the way I kind of drove it and went forward with it. So yeah, it's not just a square card, but it also has a little bit of thickness to it for people who don't know what ZU Tiles is. So it kind of plays like dominoes. They kind of butt up against each other. And it's a really different play pattern than I think a lot of people in the TCG space would be familiar with. So if this is the first time you're hearing of ZU, please check it out.
Yes, your gameplay, I've checked it out myself. I've been so busy with this event, I haven't had a chance to open and play it, but I'm going to. I've checked out the YouTube videos on the gameplay. It's very unique. It's very fun. I look forward to playing it. You were recognized by Board Game Spotlight for being one of the best games in 2020.
That was crazy.
Tiles.
Yeah, that was super crazy. Because what happened was the ZU Tiles, we didn't do a Kickstarter. I didn't want to do a Kickstarter for a bunch of reasons I didn't want to go into, but we will do one later on. But for me, I just wanted to get the game out there. I just wanted to get the game into people's hands. And so we launched in November of 2020. And then in January of 2021, somebody reached out to me. It's like, oh, by the way, your game was acknowledged as one of the top games of 2020. And I was like, What? How does that happen? Like the game literally hadn't been out for like 2 months, and somebody had already given it an award for like best game of 2020, right? And so I was just like blown away. So that was super cool, and yeah, so definitely happy about that.
Huge momentum for ZU Tiles. Now you're coming into as non-traditional into the TCG space. You've got great gameplay. An important aspect of a TCG is to have great gameplay, but you're trying to introduce a little bit of collectability to your tiles as well.
Right.
And I understand that that's something that you're going to be addressing this year, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So, like I mentioned kind of early on, my whole goal was to kind of move things back to like the 90 through 94 era of Magic kind of. And what I mean by that is back then, you didn't really have a lot of hype building. You just went to the store and could buy it off the shelf, right? And so that was the important part for me to put that out there. So so right now it's very accessible to anybody who wants to go get it. What's out there now would be considered like the alpha version maybe of Magic. So you could go get that. But then later on down the road, later this year, what's out now is called Starter Set 1, which has half of the creatures of the Zodiac. Right. We're going to be doing a Kickstarter for Starter Set 2, and we're going to be adding a bunch of bling to that. Starter Set 1 doesn't have like shiny foils or any kind of serialized stuff going on. But Starter Set 2 will have a bunch of that stuff. And then in probably third quarter of 2022 is when we're going to do a Kickstarter for our boosters. So when people look at ZU Tiles now, they go, oh, that's not really a TCG. Where are the boosters at? You know, where's the foil? Where's all the chase cards and all that kind of stuff? For me, it was very important to lead with the game and to get people to love the game itself. And believe me, I'm not opposed to the shiny, and I love the shiny just as much as the next person. But I just wanted to get the game, you know, as bare bones, I guess, if you could, into someone's hands so they could focus on the gameplay, love the gameplay, and then be excited for the future things that we have coming out. And we've got some banger stuff coming out. Let me tell you, we've got partnerships in the works now that I can't mention, but I am dying to. So I would, within the next couple of weeks or, you know, maybe a month, you guys are going to be hearing things about ZU Tiles. You're just going to be like, what did he just say? Like, what license is he working with? Like, what's going on here? And people are going to lose their mind. So lots of forward momentum. At the same time, if this is something that people might be interested in, grab yourself a copy, look on YouTube for some play videos, and get into the gameplay first. And then everything else will kind of feed upon itself, I think. That's kind of the strategy that I'm going with.
It is a solid strategy because that gameplay is going to make people fall in love with it. On top of the art, I know you have one artist. He is knocking it out of the park with the art on these tiles.
Yeah, and that's kind of
I was gifted a play mat. It's like my favorite play mat. I use it for everything now.
Awesome.
Seriously.
Yeah, that's kind of the reason why we were doing our boosters later on the year is because we are, you know, bless his heart, 53C, that's what he likes to go by. He's just working so hard, and the art team, the art director, and everybody, they're just working so hard, but there's only so much they can do. Our booster packs, I think, are going to have about 140 individual tiles. So those are all going to be 140 different pieces of art from 53C, directed by the art team. Ooh. And so, you know, sometimes it just takes time to get that and to keep a certain quality that we really, really like. So I think when people
quality is outstanding, like don't deviate from that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. Those are the two things that we really want to drive home, is gameplay, quality of gameplay, and the fun of gameplay, and the tightness and the balance. ZU Tiles, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but I originally started designing this in the tail end of 2003, believe it or not.
I saw it in a YouTube interview.
Yeah, so this isn't something that is kind of just me like pulling out, you know, out of thin air. Like, This is something that's kind of been proven and kind of I've thought through many, many things. So I think the gameplay is there. I think the balance is there. And then that coupled with the great artwork that we're really trying to keep a consistent style and a consistent quality, I think people who get involved with ZU Tiles are going to be really happy with their experience with it.
I am very happy to hear all that. I absolutely love the style and the quality of what you're producing. You've got a lot of longevity in reference to how you've created the game and where you started and where you're at now. the booster boxes, and set 2, that's going to be Kickstarter stuff, right?
Yeah, it's going to be Kickstarter. And the main, and just so I can throw out, the reason why is because with starter set 1, again, I just wanted to get out to people, but with all of this energy behind all this TCGs, like when I launched starter set 1 back in November of 2020, I didn't know anything about a Nostalgics or Grand Archive, or I hadn't heard anything about any of these, TCGs that are really coming up. So it kind of, when that started to kind of come up and bubble up, it was kind of like the market or the community saying, hey, we really want these things, and these things being foil and shiny and, all this other kind of like serialized artists or, artist signatures and all this other stuff. So, to do that, I felt like the best way to do is to just take it to a Kickstarter. And so that's kind of that's the reason for it. Yeah.
Right. Okay, awesome. I look forward to seeing the Kickstarter. I've got some ZU Tiles sets in most of these. I think there's only 3 that don't get it because I had a limited amount. All right, so let's shuffle. Ooh, S-Spin. This wheel is giving me trouble tonight. Hopefully everybody's here. Let's see who's going to win the next prize cube. Mateo Disapio. Let me show that to the camera. Are you here? Some of this takes a little while, Josh. If you would love to stay, you're more than welcome to.
I just want to say congratulations, and now I'm going to dip. All right.
Thank you so much.
See ya.